Welcome to the comeback season, where we have real conversations about fueling your body, rebuilding strength, and stepping back into the life you were meant to live. Whether you've been caring for kids, aging parents, or just lost sight of your own needs, we see you. And this is your season to rise. Hello, my name is Nichole McLeod with Healthy Mind, Healthy Body. I'm a mindset and fitness coach and the author of I Started on a Tuesday. I know what it feels like to lose yourself in the chaos and still hold on to the hope that something better is coming.
And I'm Christy Kelsey from Christy Counts Macros, nutrition and mindset coach and food freedom advocate. I've worked with lots of women who felt stuck, restricted, and unsure where to even begin. Together, we're bringing you honest conversations, healing truths, and real strategies to help you rise again, physically, mentally, and emotionally, whether you've hit rock bottom or you're just tired of putting yourself last. This space is for you because this is your comeback season, and it starts right now.
Welcome back to the comeback season. I'm your host, Nichole McLeod. And today we're diving into a topic that hits every single one of us at some point in our lives, and that is our inner critic. That voice that tells you you're not enough, you're not ready, you're not doing enough, or you're not worthy. But here's the truth. That voice isn't who you are. It's your nervous system trying to keep you safe in the only way it knows how. And when you understand what's actually happening in your body, the brain chemistry, the emotional patterns, the survival wiring, you can finally step out of self-sabotage and into self-leadership. Joining me today is Mary Crayston, a powerful life coach who focuses on confidence, well-being, and work-life balance. Together, we're going to unpack what happens when your inner critic takes over and how you can calm that voice, reconnect with your body, and rewire your brain for peace. Mary, thank you so much. Welcome to the show. Let's start off by you telling us a little bit about how you got started in being a life coach.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Well, like yourself, I was a personal trainer owned a personal training company for 15 years. And at the time, a couple things were happening. One was I was kind of a hot mess uh, and I wasn't really feeling fulfilled with being a personal trainer. And magically, one of my clients said, I think you need a life coach." And I was like, "What the fuck's a life coach?" Um, but sure. And so that's how it all started for me. And so I completely transformed, spent 4 years studying and learning about myself and all the, reading all the books, getting all the help. And then I got certified. And one thing I will say that I really notice is as a trainer, I think about 20% of my clients were achieving their goals. And I don't, I might, it's not because I was a terrible trainer, but was just I didn't have the skills. We weren't having the conversations that really drive change, which is all internal. So
Right.
now lots of people come to me and they're like, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it. How do I deal with that? And that's the work. And so now at least 80% of people are achieving their goals. And I'm sure you probably find the same
Oh
something.
my goodness, yes. Yeah, as soon as I started to tap into the nervous system and the foundation of where motivation comes from, and it's not in a program, it's not with even a coach. Don't get me wrong, if
Yeah.
we're coaches, I have a coach, you have a coach, we all want those mentors, but it's really digging deep into the mind and understanding where it's holding you back. So perfect transition into our first topic of what actually happens in the brain when that inner critic takes over. Because, oh my goodness, let's be honest, that inner critic will sabotage you at its
Oh,
first attempt, won't it? So let's break it down for that first.
yes. Okay. So we're hardwired for survival. So the inner critic lives in our survival brain. So that part of us that just wants to keep us safe ultimately. Thousands of years ago, we needed to uh, do whatever it took to literally stay alive, to get food, to um, have shelter. And our brain still kind of thinks that way, even though it's not really true that, we need to be in survival mode. Um, so let's see, what I want to say is that your brain's just trying to help you. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the critic is actually thinks it's helping you. And usually those neural pathways start from childhood. Like it's just this program we learn over and over and over again. Like, what it's afraid of, what I see a lot is it's afraid of rejection. It's afraid of
Yeah.
being abandoned. So then it tells you, what's wrong with you? Why can't you stick to this program? You should do better. You're not doing enough. It's trying to keep you safe. It thinks that by doing that, you're going to work harder, do better.
Yeah.
It's not true. So it's trying to keep you alive, but the reality is you don't need that voice. It doesn't work.
It really is a protection mechanism. And I think a protective mechanism, the day that I put logical thought into that, what this is a part of my brain, it's doing its job, it's trying a little too hard. How do I keep it at bay and make sure that I still have control over it? Because we do need that part of us, because our brains are wired to unfortunately try to predict the future, to be in why, to feel safe. Our brains will always try to go to safety. And if it's safety with our dysfunction, it'll be safety with our dysfunction. Our brain doesn't know the difference, right?
Yeah.
So
We need it. We need, if
yes,
you're driving the car, you need to have that sense of there's a car coming, don't
yeah,
go. It will protect you. We need it, but it thinks we need it all the time.
that's right. But because it doesn't understand the difference between if a bear is going to attack you or a long to-do list, like it literally,
Exactly.
it reacts the same way. So
Yeah.
for our listeners, let's talk about the amygdala just a little bit, and what's going on there and how it really does hijack the prefrontal cortex at times, if you let it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's it's just going to try to convince you. Like the amygdala just sends this signal of, like, you just said it all, like, be careful.
Yeah.
So, and it's very convincing. We don't even see that it's actually happening. We can't, that's why this conversation is so important. Like the actually understanding what it's trying to tell you is what is going to help you intercept it.
That's right. And you can intercept it. That mind brain body loop that goes round and round, if you don't intercept it, it's just going to keep going because your subconscious mind is always aware.
Exactly.
Right? That amygdala is really, we were created for that, to detect threats. But
Hmm.
sometimes it'll just keep going over and over and over again. And unfortunately, when that amygdala is on high alert, we don't have the ability to, the logical brain with the
No,
prefrontal cortex, and to kind of keep ourselves calm. But that's why it's so important to recognize when you feel that, my opinion.
absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about, so we can set the foundation here of how the neural pathways, like how we literally form them ourselves. Let's talk a little bit about that first before we move on.
It's like, to me, it's like learning anything. So neural pathways get formed when we do anything over and over and over again. So if we think a thought over and over and over again, that becomes a belief.
Mhm.
That becomes a neural pathway and it becomes automatic. So it's like learning how to play the guitar. At first, if you have to really think about it to be able to work at it, but eventually you're playing the guitar and you're thinking about dinner. You don't even
Yeah,
realize you're playing the guitar. So our neural pathways are the same. They just start running the show. But if you don't notice what neural pathways are running, your brain's just going to keep taking them. because they're
It's
so
actually
strong.
similar to what we just talked about before, that we started recording here, like fitness. We could do that in our sleep.
Yeah.
But the second we started studying and getting certified in the, with the nervous system, that was a little bit more intimidating. And you're like, oh, I can't do it as easily.
Yeah,
I,
exactly.
I I like to look at it too. What I like to tell my clients is think of it as like you haven't cut your grass in however long, a few weeks. What would happen if you walked back and forth 50 times? You'd create the grass would, go down and you'd create a
Yeah,
little path. Well, that's just like your brain. And if
yeah,
every day you walked on that path and you kept walking, eventually the grass would go. It's just like in a forest, how,
yeah,
that's how we create paths in a forest. And we just keep walking the same path. So
yeah.
it's exactly the same. Our brains are no different. The more you critically think and the more you beat yourself up and the more you tell yourself a lie over and over and over, it's
Mhm.
gonna stick.
Well, and that's why I believe we learn a lot of them from childhood. They get really, we learn how to behave to keep ourselves safe when
Mhm,
we're kids. We either model our parents, they're people pleasing, or we kind of become the opposite of them.
mhm.
Um, and so that's a long time for a neural pathway to gain strength and become automatic. So
Yeah,
it's like you're saying, and it's like a super highway, and we're just taking that and we miss the exit. If we want to
that's a
take
good one.
another exit, we don't even think to take it. We have to consciously be like, no, wait, remember you said you were
Yeah,
going to start saying no to things. You've got to take the no exit.
yeah.
But to do that takes a lot of consciousness.
Practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Practice and choice. It has to be a choice. This is not something that just comes easy, and it's not something that comes naturally either. You
No.
have to make a conscious effort to say no or to do the thing for sure. So if that inner critic is just the brain's way really of protecting itself, you have to admit it feels really, really personal. Like it's so hard sometimes to differentiate between the lie, the critic lie, and really what the truth is. So let's break that down. How do we differentiate from that realistically in the moment?
Ooh, that's the hardest time to notice it unless you've been really practicing it. It's so convincing because it is usually subconscious.
Mhm.
So how do we bring it to light is it we have to reflect, I think is the easiest way in the moment. That's like next level.
Yeah.
The first step is to be able to reflect and go, okay, when I get triggered, this is what ends up happening to me. Or why don't I keep not going to the gym? Why? Like what are the thoughts I'm having that stop me from going? I had a client who would literally walk by the gym and she told herself she would go. And so she had to really stop and go, what's why? Like I want to go, but my
Yeah.
my critic or this internal voice is telling me that I don't know what I'm doing, that I'm going to look stupid, and I'm not really even conscious that I'm thinking that. Like she had to step back, reflect, and check it out.
Yeah. The good old default mode network is a real
Exactly.
thing. And you were just talking about that from the early childhood. And our DMN is the default mode network, is a lot of the times established in our formative years when we were a child from what parents, caregivers made us feel. So let's break that down a little bit.
I mean, I'll give you an example. So my own example. So when I was a kid, my stepmom was super harsh and she was just quite awful. So if I ever said anything, even if I said, the sky is blue, I would get in trouble. It'd be like, no, it's not. And my dad never had my back either, and
Mhm.
I don't, it, that's all a whole bunch of stories in there. But anyway, the point is what I learned from that was that I need to stay quiet not say anything, and then I won't get in trouble. And
Mhm.
so fast forward all these years later, I still feel I have a really hard time saying how I really feel about something, because that default network thinks if I say something, I'm going to get in trouble. It's not safe for me to say something.
Mhm.
So I still have to work really hard to get out of my comfort zone, be vulnerable, and remind myself that I'm safe. I am safe with myself no matter what.
Yeah.
But that's yeah.
That makes perfect sense because really that shame-based conditioning, and that is especially our generation, it was very black and white. Children should be seen and not heard. Fast forwarding to this generation where it's, I feel, in my opinion, it's the other end of the
Yeah.
spectrum and it's overly sensitive, overly, let's be, a lot of the times have victim mentality. My point is that there, in any generation, there is no perfect parent on planet Earth.
No.
Every single parent on this planet will have given on some level their child some level of trauma and received some level of trauma from their parents, and the reason for that is we're all human and every day of our lives we're going to make mistakes. But in my opinion, the first step to that is awareness
That's
and
right.
being mindful of this, and this is why these conversations are so important, because
Yeah.
so many of us go on in life thinking we're broken, thinking that
Exactly.
we can't do things, and it's not true.
Yeah.
So
We're broken, or we blame, I could easily, and I did for years, blame my stepmom, blame my
yeah,
dad. But that doesn't help me at all. They were where they were in their journey, and it was what it was, and it ended up landing on me the way it did. And now I have to do what I have to do and take responsibility for where I'm at. So yes, to your point.
that's a very good point, because I think that's another thing that people don't realize is that although something happened to them, if you've been abused or something terrible, catastrophic has affected your life, you still have to take personal responsibility for it, because personal responsibility is how you choose to respond. For
Hmm.
me personally, I grew up with in a very abusive household, and it's actually taken me decades to even verbalize that. I struggled with it. I don't know if you were on my summit for my book launch. I didn't My first copy of my book, I didn't even talk about that. It wasn't until a friend of mine said, "Well, what are you talking about when you're saying these things?" I was subconsciously hiding it that much that I didn't even want to discuss it. But the day that empathy came into it, the day that I put understanding, okay, my dad grew up in an abusive household himself. My dad got beat himself. My dad got abused himself. My dad became a dad at 18, and I was, emphasizing or empathizing with, no, that's not a
Yeah.
word. I was
Yeah.
being empathetic. I don't know. I'm making up words here.
I love
You know what I
it.
mean?
Yeah, yes, all of
Yeah.
that.
But anyway,
Yeah.
that the day that I was able to really connect on that level and understand where it came from just opened up this whole opportunity for healing. And
Well,
that
and
was
your understanding doesn't mean what he did was okay.
that's right.
There's a distinction
Yeah.
there.
Exactly. And you need to understand it wasn't okay, but to understand that he didn't do that thing because I'm a terrible person. He did that thing because
Yes.
it's all he knew how to do, and that's all he knew how to parent. And the day that I realized that I wasn't the cause of it, that the cause of it had nothing to do with me, was the day that my brain could start healing and understanding, and in many times feel bad for him. And
Yeah.
and I think that a lot of us don't realize the power we have in that when we choose to respond that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Good for you.
Well, it's a small little piece.
Well, it's a
So
big
once we,
deal. It's a big deal. Thank you
well,
for sharing that.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
On my podcast too, first time, there you go.
Well, yeah.
So
Wow.
when we start recognizing these patterns, the next step is calming in the moment, just like you said, when I asked you that big question, okay, what do we do? Well, if you're in that moment, there's sometimes like just breathing is difficult. So let's talk about some ways that people can use their body to quiet the voice when that gets so loud in their head
Hmm.
in real time.
For sure. I mean, once you have the awareness, which takes a lot of introspection and but once you have that and you're seeing it in the moment, one thing I teach people is to, even for 10 seconds, focusing all of your attention on a physical sensation.
Mhm.
And what I love about this is you can do it on a call, in a meeting, at any time. So it's focusing all your attention on the sounds. I love the sounds one where I'll think about, okay, focus your attention on the furthest away sound you can hear. And and then on the closest sound, there's
Yeah.
breath, there's touch, looking at something. So what happens, it in your brain takes your brain, like what's generating your thoughts, it goes to a new area. So now you're literally pulling yourself out of survival brain. So it's not like you're going to go from triggered like 10 out of 10 to a 0, but you will diminish, you will turn the volume down on that, and you'll be able to have, it's like you now have opened the door to the other parts of the brain that have access.
Logic.
Yeah, compassion,
Yeah.
big picture thinking, inspiration, calm. So now there's a possibility for you to generate different ways of thinking and responding to whatever the thing is that's
That's
triggering
right.
you.
And when you generate new ways of thinking, you start to generate new neural pathways, which will be part of your new default mode network so that you can, when you're in that moment again in your life, you'll
Yeah,
navigate back to that quicker than you would have before.
exactly.
I think it's really worth talking about that you literally can't think your way out of an overactive amygdala. You
Right.
have to regulate that through the body first.
Mhm.
So many times we're like, just make a better thought or just don't think that thing. Well,
Let it go.
yeah, just let it go. Just don't worry about it. Well, it's
Yeah.
not that easy. But when you realize the power you have through your body and how you can actually hijack that in that what I said earlier, the mind body loop, you can hijack that and stop it. Because once you hijack that amygdala, you now can use the logical brain, your prefrontal cortex, because your amygdala, when it's going crazy, you're not using any logical part of your brain. You're just spiraling. And I talked about this. It's hard. So I talked about this that I did this yesterday. I something
Yeah.
triggered me about my son,
Yeah.
and I've had a really hard year with my son, and the littlest trigger brings back all these emotions and all this pain, and it's like, what do I do? How do I get through this? And it's an everyday
Mhm.
challenge that we all have to face and really holding that captive.
And the 10 seconds or whatever you can to connect to your body in the moment that you notice the trigger is is one thing. And I think how we can help ourselves remember to do that is by actually doing these outside of those moments. So when
Yeah.
we're not triggered, there's research on it, spending even 15 minutes a day, and it doesn't have to be consecutive, at any point, paying attention to your breath or to your body or to what you're seeing, being present essentially. When we do that, that part of our brain grows. It's like that's flexing the muscle.
Mhm.
So then when you get triggered, your brain goes, oh, I need that muscle. I got to take some deep breaths. Because we
Mhm.
forget to be able to do that. It's like if you're at the gym and I'm thinking ahead of what I'm going to say. I hope it's okay. When you're training your pelvic floor, you're
Mhm.
doing all those tedious exercises for your pelvic floor. And then you go to the trampoline park and you're jumping on the trampoline. And if you haven't done the training, you're going to pee your pants.
Yeah.
but if you've done the training, I mean, if you're a midlife woman who's,
And
but
since you've had more than 2 kids, maybe you will have pee your pants anyway, but
yeah, true. Yeah. But
yeah.
it's the same thing, if you're training for a marathon, and you haven't been doing the work in the gym, it's gonna be really hard to make it to the end.
Your
So
brain is a muscle,
yeah,
and you have to, the same way that well, your brain's not technically a muscle, but it's just like a muscle. It
yeah, that's
resembles that of. But, just like a muscle, you have to work the muscle. It needs to know what it's doing. It needs to, that sort of thing. For the mind, same thing.
mhm.
When you get into a certain situation, if you haven't practiced the thing and your brain doesn't know what to do, well, of course, it's not going to go back to that.
No, it's
You brought
go back
something
to
up though,
failure.
yes, totally.
Mhm.
You brought something up though that was really accurate, and that is practicing when you're calm. And
Yeah,
I want to take that a step further. And I learned this little hack, and I've been practicing it, and it does work. That when
please.
you're calm,
Yeah.
touch yourself, like in a way, tap your knee, like I don't know, do something
Mhm.
to tell your brain that this is my safety moment. This is,
Yeah,
I'm okay. I'm okay. So if it's tapping, whatever it is in that moment that you're calm in, and then the next time you're spiraling, do that. Do the thing. It really works with
100%.
the breath.
It yeah.
Um, Another big one for me is understanding that elongated exhales activate that vagus nerve and shifts
Uh,
your body from that threat to safety. So inhale, longer exhales. That's my go-to as well.
okay, so I'm just learning about the vagus nerve actually, and what I heard was this your point, you have to do the exercises for it
Mhm.
because it it has a tone to it. So the more toned it is, then the more efficient you are all the time of
That's
getting
right.
this oxygen into your system. So it's just beyond beneficial. Never mind when you're
Yeah.
triggered.
But it takes practice.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you have to be mindful, intentional, and aware. Like if you're not intentional to calm yourself when you feel that frantic coming on, and
mhm.
that body scan, like the ability to scan your body and to be aware, like I just said, intentional and aware, is it's life changing.
Yeah.
Because if you are in a situation, and you might actually, your heart might start to beat faster before you even mindfully realize that you
Right.
feel a certain emotion. It's crazy. Your body will always tell you ahead of time, but you have to listen. So
Exactly.
if you feel that anxiety and that whatever it is coming on, close your eyes, do a body scan. What is your body trying to tell you? Because a
Mhm.
lot of the times you do have the power to calm your nerves before it gets to that point.
Mm. Or at least c- like de-escalate a little bit.
Yes. Yes. And every time you do that, the safety and what your brain understands as being safe
Mm-hmm.
will be that much easier to achieve, really.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's talk now about reprogramming those deep, deep, and I want to stress deep, wired inner narratives that we like to have on repeat in our brain all day long. So let's just start off with chatting. We talked a little bit about the neural pathways,
Yeah.
but the beauty of neuroplasticity. Let's talk about that.
Mm. So to how to understand them? Is that what is
Well,
that
just to understand the fact that neuroplasticity is
Mhm.
possible. Like
Mhm.
it's always possible to change. It's always possible to rewire the way that your brain is working. If it's not working for you, if you're finding yourself struggling over and over, you have the same roadblock, then something, the universe, God, I would say God, but whatever you want to call them, is trying to tell you something. So let's talk about what it means to rewire your brain.
Yeah, I think it's everything we've been talking about. So the understanding of what is getting in the way. What is the thing that keeps telling you to stay stuck? So what like the woman in the gym, like why are you walking by? So understanding what's getting in the way is important.
Yeah.
Takes a lot of work. And then doing the the reprogramming with the body every time you feel that. But then I think the other piece to all of this is, who's the version of you that is on, who wants this for you? Who's this, like this relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you have. There's the essence of who you are, the truth of who you are, that comes from love, that is encouraging, that believes in you, that will lovingly kind of kick your ass, that won't
Mm.
keep you complacent, but and will give you the courage to do the things, to be uncomfortable. uh, that that's the other thing we have to connect to in order to rewire. Like, we can know I know what's getting in my way, and I know how to take a few deep breaths, but and a lot of people will come to me because they're like, okay, I've done all this in therapy, I understand what's blocking me, now I want to move on. Like, how do I do that? So it's creating neural pathways, like creating
Yeah.
that off ramp, and
Yeah.
starting to practice, how do I take that off ramp? How do I connect to her? Because every time I listen to her, she has the answers. She knows I just get shivers thinking about it. Like, she's the one I need to be listening to.
I love that analogy. That's such a good metaphor. And you know what just popped in my head?
Mm.
I just moved from BC to Alberta.
Right.
BC lower mainland traffic is like LA traffic now. It's ridiculous. It's off the charts. And the biggest reason for that is because there's not many civil overpasses and the civil work that needs to happen when they build new neighborhoods. So it just congests. That's our brain. And just like you said, building those overpasses and those exits and those entrances just helps everything, the traffic flow so much better. Now I'm moving out here to Alberta, and the traffic, when someone complains about traffic out here, I just chuckle. 5 minutes extra is not a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah.
But that's what our brains are doing when we're in that mode, when we're really struggling, and we're that narrative in our head that's going over and over, we know is wrong. The way through that is to add in that extra pathway. So recognize it. What I always tell clients, the 3 R's: recognize it, regulate,
Mhm.
right? So you recognize, okay, this is a problem, this is happening. I'm going to regulate, I'm going to breathe through it, I'm going to feel the emotion, I'm going to body scan, whatever it is. But now I need to rewire, because
Mm.
you don't want to leave it in limbo there. You want to give your brain the new thing it needs to do. Lay down new grass, put
Yes,
that new roadway in, right?
yes,
That's the big
yeah,
part, is to then follow through and focus on that part,
yes.
and tell yourself that over and over,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Yes, exactly. And that's the work I love to do. That's powerful. And we
Yeah,
can, and to your point, that's the neural pathways. That's how we create new neural pathways.
that's
That's
right.
how we go from, I have a client who was believing she couldn't didn't believe in herself, that she could lose weight, that she could get fit. She kept trying and not doing. And fast forward a few years now, she's completely embodied that
It's awesome.
identity, and so we can have that. But it doesn't just, I always tell people, like, you want to be confident. Confidence not going to just knock on your door one day and
Mm-mm.
be like, okay, I'm here, you're good to go. Like, it's work, but it's really worthwhile work.
But understanding, okay, that's a perfect example. What is confidence? So breaking it down for you, okay, well, what confidence means to me is I can walk into a room and not feel like I want to shrink.
Hmm.
Confidence to me is I can post on social media. I
Yeah,
struggle with that. I really do. And I'm being transparent with that. And so many of us do.
yeah.
That's confidence. So that instead of giving yourself this big goal of, I want to be more confident, break it down. My
Hmm.
goal is to start being able to do this thing that is going to require me to dig a little deeper and rewire my brain this way. But to understand that you have to go through those 3 R's for the framework, because if you
Yeah.
don't recognize, then regulate, then rewire, that missing piece is, it's not going to get those neural pathways where you want them.
Other thing about the rewire is to be practicing it not when it's the hardest moment, the
Yeah.
biggest trigger. We practice it when it's easier, when there's no, you know, not a lot of skin in the game. So for me, I would start practicing if someone, I go to Starbucks and they don't make the coffee, the freaking $7 coffee, the way I want it to go. It's really easy for me to walk out the
Yeah.
door and not say anything. But so I start practicing in those moments saying, actually, can you please remake this for me? That's me rewiring it so that when I get into it when I have something to say to my partner that I need, I can express it because I've been flexing that muscle. So that's the work it requires.
That's another good point you just brought up, boundary setting, rewiring your brain. And that, if you look at the foundation of so many of our problems in life, it's from not setting boundaries. It's letting things slip, letting it go, because you don't want to cause trouble. You don't want to cause problems. And it honestly is the foundation of probably one of the hardest years of my life, of me not going, actually, no, this is my house, or this is this, and I need to have, this is what, works for us, or whatever situation in your life for setting a boundary. Those boundaries do also wire your brain for
Huge.
self-worth.
Oh,
And if you let a boundary go too much, if you allow someone to treat you in a certain way over and over and over, you've now, jeopardized your self-worth, because those, whatever you're dealing with, that criticism, that rejection, that whatever, is now wiring your brain the opposite way. When really, if you just set the darn boundary in the first place and you learned the strategies for that, then the
mhm.
rewiring part of it just makes it so much easier.
Oh yeah. I mean, we could do a whole podcast on
Yes, we could.
boundaries. Boundaries are the antidote to all you people pleasers out there. And
Yeah.
they're not easy because we don't set them because of the critic, because of the amygdala, because it feels too scary and not safe to set them because we're
Yeah.
afraid we're going to disappoint them. Um, they're not going to love us. Like,
That's the big one. Not going to love us. Rejection, right?
yeah,
Rejection and love. Your limbic system in your brain will always be scanning for that. And if it doesn't feel that it's loved, but it's not just loved by other people, your brain needs to believe it's loved by you.
that's right.
You need to love yourself, and you need to believe in your own self-worth. Because if you don't, then you're going to really struggle having believing that other people love you as well.
And that's the part we want to spend more time growing, is that part of us there is a part of us that loves us
Yes.
unconditionally,
Mm-hmm.
connecting to her. And we were just talking about this, like once you find her, it's then the work is coming back to her, reconnecting to her, because we don't stay connected to that part of ourselves all the time. But once you have that relationship with that part of yourself, everything changes.
So true. Two things that I've done, and it's kind of silly, but why not just tell the world? Name them. You
Yeah,
know,
no,
Barb is okay, when Barb's like on a roll of trying to self-sabotage, I don't even know where Barb came from. And if there's any Barbs, I'm sorry. But Barb is my bad one, right? Like
oh, nice.
and it sounds so silly to say, but like, keep Barb at bay,
Yeah,
give
that's good.
that inner critic a name. When that inner critic is trying to take over and hijack your thoughts, stop it in its tracks. And how you can do that is identify it by name, because your brain's like, oh wait, we can understand why it's happening, but we don't want to see her right now, right? And
Yeah.
then instantly rewording the narrative. So like, for example, I'm failing, I always fail, I suck at
Mhm.
all this. How about actually giving yourself grace? I'm learning how to find my own peace. I'm learning at my own pace. I'm whatever it is. Reframing the narrative has been a big help for me too.
Yeah, for sure. Both of those are powerful tools.
All right, let's quickly chat about how can we show compassion to ourselves when we lose that inner critic. Our last topic here, my friend.
Yeah, the self-compassion is the biggest. If you had to do one thing, that's what I would tell
Yeah.
everyone to do, because we're all so hard on ourselves and we don't learn. We need to be teaching self-compassion in school, but we have to find this. I want everyone to find this. And Kristen Neff is like the guru of self-compassion. And I do find people who are really hyperachievers and who worry about being compassionate with themselves think that we're going to end up being complacent and not go after things, but that's a lie. The truth is, when we're compassionate with ourselves, we actually then again are over in this other part of our brain now where we have access to uh, inspiration. So we're going to take action.
It's your motivation. If
Yeah.
you can't be that true motivation network in your brain is activated when you love yourself again and when you have self-worth. It's
Yeah.
black and white. So funny that you mentioned Kristen Neff, though, because I actually had that in my notes as well.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Yeah,
hilarious.
but
She's amazing. Yeah.
it's amazing. And like basically her show she shares self-compassion, that it activates the brain's care network and it
Mhm.
shifts you from threat to safety.
Yes.
And the big one that I learned from her was that self-kindness actually releases oxytocin and dopamine. Like we're always on this hunt to try to get more, oxytocin and dopamine, when really you can get that by simply loving yourself and believing in yourself again.
I remember I'll never forget it. I was practicing self-compassion consciously by just using a word, saying it's okay. It's okay. So every time I would make a mistake or whatever, have the inner critic, I would just tell myself it's okay. And one day I made a mistake with the client. I got off the call and I automatically said to myself, it's okay. And then I was like, holy shit, it just came on its own. It just didn't have to like press the button for it. So the way I think, there's many ways to find this voice. The most powerful or easiest way I think is to think about, what would you say to a friend? That's that's compassion. And it's not fixing. Compassion is not fixing. It's just saying
It's okay.
that's hard. It's
Mhm,
okay. Like it's normal.
mhm.
It's okay. So I think, how would I say that to a friend? And the one that gets me every single time is, what would if my son were in this situation, what would I want him to be like? How would I want him to be talking to himself?
Yeah,
That's the voice I need to have.
because it's empathy,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
when anytime you meet your critic, you bring your empathy brain to Barb.
Yeah.
Barb just shuts up.
Yes, exactly.
Like that empathy, but it's not just having empathy. Like we're so big with having empathy for others, and I brought that up
Yes.
earlier, but it's so important to have that empathy for yourself,
1,000,000%.
because if you don't, your brain's not going to ever feel like it's safe, and it's just going to spiral in the other way there.
That is the biggest muscle I want people to find and flex for themselves. I mean, imagine if that was your automatic. Like if that
Mhm.
came up automatically when the critic came in, how much more peace you would have. Like you're still going to get triggered. Life is still going to life at you. You know, you're going to make
Yes.
mistakes, and shit gets hard. But if you have that as a response, it's just a little bit easier to deal with the things.
Yeah. And the biggest thing with that is just the awareness that it needs to happen.
Yep.
So if you find yourself, um, you know, constantly ruminating in your head all the things you do wrong, or how you're not worth it, or it's not possible, start holding it on trial. Start looking at the evidence. Write it
There's
down. That
Yeah.
was another interesting thing I learned, this course I'm taking right now for life coaching. 10% of what you read, you'll remember. 70% of what you write down, you'll remember. So if our brains are navigating to the thing, well, if we don't remember it, well, there's no point. But if we write it down, that's a 70% chance your brain's going to go back to that thing. That's why journaling is so
Mhm,
big. So
mhm.
before we end this, I just want to leave our listeners with a couple strategies. And your biggest one was this, course, self-love, really, really important, if that was the first thing they did. For me, it was journaling. What else do you have, my friend?
Oh my gosh. Where do I start? I think it's just giving yourself, even if it's 3 minutes a day, to reflect, to
Yeah.
connect to the wisdom that's inside of you. And there's a statistic of 15 minutes a day is 2% of your waking hours, and yet we can't give ourselves 15 minutes. Like have a meeting with yourself. Like, what do you want? What are you like when you're in the flow and things are going well? Like, get connected to that version of you. Write down, what is she like? Okay, well, the last journal thing, I love this as a journal exercise. If you think about what you want to have, I want to have $1 million, and you write down how you will feel and who you will be when that happens. To your point, then becomes who you are and
Your
how you
emotion to go to.
feel,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
then, yeah. Anyway, I love that. I love the idea of journaling, and connecting to the truth of who you are.
It's funny what just popped in my head when you mentioned if someone gave you $1 million, and I thought to myself, and self-sabotaging is equivalent that if you lost just $10 of that $1 million, that you just give it all away. That's so much what we do in life, right? Oh, I
Good.
lost $100. Forget it all. I'm done. Throw it
Yes.
away. I'm
Yes.
worthless. No, you just lost a little bit. So let's move on. And you still got almost $1 million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thinking about the big picture is a really effective tool to
yeah,
get out of the sabotage. There's so
so
many
true.
tools. I just can't even.
Well, you brought up a good thing. I think we could do a whole other episode on setting boundaries. So I think we should do that at some point. But wrapping this one up, my friend, how can our listeners reach out to you? And do you have any programs or anything you'd like to hear or like them to hear about?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm building a program for January about goal setting. And the best way to get a vibe from me is on Substack, which is where my newsletter is and where putting all the things about what I'm up to. So I'll send you that. My Substack is called Confident Enough. And I write about all this. I'm literally just finishing up a 3-part series on how to stop negative self-talk. So your inner critic.
It's exactly why I reached out to you for this
That's
one.
right. That's right. And of course, yeah.
That was the letter that I was like, I want this on the show.
But mostly right now, I'm focusing on my one-on-ones for the rest of this year.
Gotcha. All right. Well, all of your contact information will be in the show notes for anybody that wants to reach out to you. Thank you so much for coming, my friend.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I love how much depth this conversation brought, because the reality is when we start to understand that the inner critic is not our enemy, it's simply an overactive survival pattern, everything changes. You can't shame yourself into growth. You can only regulate yourself into it. When your body feels safe, your mind starts to open. And when your mind opens, you begin to see yourself clearly again, capable, resilient, and oh my goodness, worthy. So here's your reflection for today. Take out your journal, write down the words your inner critic uses most often, then rewrite which one is true and which one has compassion. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, remember, your comeback starts the moment you choose to believe in yourself. And my friends, it is a choice. Thank you for joining us on the comeback season. Please remember, the conversations we share here are for informational and motivational purposes only. We are not licensed medical professionals, and this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or replace guidance from your doctor or your healthcare provider. Always consult your healthcare team before making changes to your nutrition, your fitness, or your mental health routines. Your health and well-being comes first, and we want you to move forward safely with the right support for your journey.